We're going to get you out of your comfort zone because you're going to be at a table with a bunch of adults you don't know, but I'm going to get them into the mindset that they're there to add value and help you come up with ideas, some coaching around three kinds of judgments. And let me just see if we can discover. How many of you made really good judgments? I heard one over here on choosing a school, which I would call a strategic judgment in the language I'm using. She changed the direction. It was, I'm going to go to a place that's better for my learning. How many of you, and the other categories are people, who you hang with or don't hang with. And then crisis is that thing that happens every so often, where things don't work out. How many of you, your best judgment was about people? Raise your hand. How many of you have people judgment? Okay. How many of your best judgments were about strategy or something you wanted to do? And that, I get your hand up for sure. And how many made really good judgments in some kind of a crisis? Okay, a couple of you. How many of you made bad people judgments? Show of hands. Now, your worst judgment was a people. Yeah, whenever I do this, that tends to be the one. On the bad ones, I shouldn't have hung out with them. I should have gotten rid of them. I should have, Joe was on people. Which, your people? Anybody have a bad crisis judgment they made or decision? Okay. And, this is, and I want our principal coaches to help our colleagues here get ready. Here's what we're going to do when we go to the main room at about a little before 6 o'clock. Our young people are spread out into 15 tables, and I'll talk about, there are 20 tables now, I'll talk about the other 5 tables, but the 15 tables, we want to make sure, I think we'll have the right numbers, Bob. I don't know how many, we think there'll be how many principals? More than 30. Okay. So there'll be at least 8 principals at each table. For the 15 tables with the Boys and Girls Club kids, Bob and myself and one other colleague will run a little workshop. And we'll lay out the framework and say, okay, we're going to go for 15 minutes or 12 minutes at the table, and you're going to be able to ask some questions about, here are some people judgment questions I have. And we'll talk, and they'll give you their best, have a little dialogue about how do you make good people judgments or how do you avoid making bad ones. So we need to make sure our young people here have some questions in mind or things that they can talk about in the people area. And then at the end of that, I'll in the general session room, pull out some examples, grab the microphone, and we'll say, okay, now we're going to go to strategy. What do I want to do with my life or in school and so forth? 10 minutes of coaching from the people at the table. Pull out some examples. And then we're going to go, the last step will be crisis. Question of how do I handle a crisis? What are some ideas? So you're going to get help. And the way I'm framing this for the adults in there is, I could talk about judgment, the way leaders make judgments and so forth. But what are we doing for the next generation to help you folks begin to develop the capability of making better judgments? Because at the end of the day, nothing else matters. It's the judgments you make about people, where you're headed, and then something goes wrong every so often. So if the principals could take some time and just get them comfortable, make sure they have a couple questions, because I'm going to put them under the spotlight at the table and say, share with your table what people issues you have, and then they'll kind of be there, the people that are coming in to give you their best thoughts, and we'll have fun. There'll be a fun group of people, and we'll take maybe the next 15 minutes or so just to make sure we're ready, and I'll come around and sign your books, and then we'll kind of close out this session and be ready for the group in there and make sure everybody knows what table they're going to. Okay?
My name is John Byrne. I'm Executive Editor of Business Week. I want to welcome you all to the 50th floor of the McGraw Hill building. It's great to see Noel's many friends and connections in the room. I want to especially thank and welcome the Madison Square Boys and Girls Club. Why don't you guys stand up? You're a special guest tonight. Thank you. exercise and a little fun, the way that Noel likes to have fun with people when he gets them into his workshops. And, but before we do that, I just want to talk a little bit about Noel. Now, I've known Noel for, oh my God, probably 20 years. I remember first venturing out to the University of Michigan and being a lowly reporter on the Business Week staff, doing business school rankings, and sitting in one of Noel's classrooms. And to see Noel in the classroom is to see, you know, energy times 5. Passion, enthusiasm, great respect for people, generous with his time. And that was sort of the start of a long relationship. I've read almost all of his books, or at least I'll pretend to. They're all on my bookshelf. And I was delighted when I heard that he was teaming up with another friend of mine for many years, Warren Bennis, who many of you know, 2 of the best experts in leadership and team building in the world, to do a new book. And Noel came to me and told me about their collaboration, and I was really excited about it. And we are excerpting the book in the next edition of Business Week, which comes out on Friday. There is a Q&A with Warren and Noel and myself in the magazine. There's an audio version of it that will appear on our website. We will have case studies based on the book on the website as well. And I'm really happy to host Noel tonight and to give him off to you. So Noel, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank all of you for coming tonight, and to me it's a very special night, and you know, John has been gracious enough in the Business Week in McGraw Hill folks to host this event. And those of you who do know me, I've kind of defined life as a workshop. As a matter of fact, Bob Knowling was at my wedding, and my wife and I ran a workshop at the reception. People had to tell stories and come up with the funniest story about each of us and then share it. So nothing changes. This is a workshop. And the topic of the book that Warren and I started, well, by the way, it's 2 years late, and thank God for Adrian Zackheim. Where's Adrian? Who stayed with us. And the book is here. And it was late because it was a very hard book for us to write. We've both written a lot on leadership. We said, you know, the one missing element when we really started thinking about leadership, you know, I talked about you have to have a teachable point of view and leaders have to be teachers. But what do you do that for? Well, hopefully it's to be a better leader. Well, how do I know you're a better leader? If you make good judgments. And then we started saying, well, what are the important judgments? We said there are only 3. People, strategy, crisis. Who's on your team, off your team. Strategy is where we're going, and crisis happens every so often. And then we started thinking, well, what do we know about how people make judgments? And you read all the literature that our academic colleagues have written, it's kind of useless when we really started looking at it. It was, you know, here are the 5 easy steps to making a decision. And then we go talk to Jeff Immelt, the CEO of GE, and say, well, how did you make that $10 billion acquisition of Amersham? Well, he didn't follow those 5 easy steps. Or we go talk to A.G. Lafley, the CEO of Procter & Gamble. How is it you put this 38-year-old woman, Deb Henretta, in charge of a $9 billion business and then got rid of all the rest of the staff to turn the business around? How did you make that? And so the more we got into it, the more we realized that judgment is a process. It's kind of a preparation. People make a call, and then they have to stay with the execution. And so the book is really us trying to help leaders, all kinds of leaders, make better judgments. And it's also about how do you develop judgment in the next generation. How do we develop young people who can make better judgments about people, strategy, in the case of the young people here, where are they going with their lives? And I can tell you, having just spent an hour or so with the Boys and Girls Club kids, they all can tell about crises they face. So rather than come to an event where the author gets up there and blah, blah, blah about their book, I want to put all of the adults to work here. And they're going to give back to the Boys and Girls Club young people at the table, and we're going to run a workshop around judgment. And we've spent the last hour or so helping them think about some questions they have about how do I do better at my people judgments? Who do I hang with? How do I pick the right people or get rid of the wrong people? Strategy will be, where am I going with my life and school and maybe work, and crisis will be some of the things they face. And we're going to kind of run it as a bit of a workshop. We also have another very special group that I want to thank for all the great work they do. How many people from the New York City schools and principals do we have in the room? Okay. One of the most rewarding things for me was working with Bob Nolly, and the last chapter of the book is about the New York City Leadership Academy, which is really focused on how do we bring leadership, new leadership capability to New York City principals. You have a good principal, you got a good school. And there was no investment in the past really in helping principals be ready, the new principals be ready, or the ongoing principals. I ran GE's Crotonville in the 80s for Jack Welch, and you think about the amount of investment we made at GE in developing leadership and people coming to Crotonville 8 times during their career, and then you look at what we do in our schools for our principals. Bob and his team and Joel Klein put together a leadership academy, and it's wonderful to see you folks back here. And hopefully we can all contribute to the judgment of the next generation. So. But the last chapter of the book is on the work that Bob and Joel Klein and really with the support of Mayor Bloomberg did around how do we contribute to leadership for principals. And I guess with the theme of wanting to give back and our Boys and Girls Club young people here, I'd like to turn the floor over to Bob to kind of close out the session and share some of your thoughts, Bob.
Okay, I think I'm between finishing and drinks.
Yes, it's a dangerous place to be, Bob.
This is going to be real quick. First of all, to all of these wonderful kids who are here, I'm inspired by all of you. And I can recall the first time I ever got up in a public place to make a speech. And it's a wonderful clip that I hope never makes YouTube. But I fainted. And to see you come into this environment and to participate in this event is really inspiring. And those of you who were drafted to have to say something tonight, that's just your first little baby step into what I think is going to be a wonderful world and experience for you. Second, I would like to acknowledge those principals who are here. I can tell you in my 30-year career, the most rewarding thing that I've ever done was when I made the decision to come to town and to help Mike and Joel with this effort in the schools. I come from one of 13, grew up with a single mom and on welfare. And I remember every time I got a promotion in the business world, and like the one young man who was an athlete, I also had the opportunity to play sports. And I remember every time I got promoted, I'd call my mother up, and I would tell her I just got promoted. Now, she didn't understand what it meant. To this day, she still thinks I work for the phone company. But I would tell her every time I got promoted. And it made no sense to her, but you know how it is when you see those guys on the Super Bowl, and they all say, "Hello, Mom." But there's something about being a little boy and wanting to take care of your mother. The reason I say that to you is that the day I called her to tell her that I was going to New York City, and I said, "Mom, I'm going to go help the school chancellor and the mayor. And the bet that they've made in New York City is that leadership matters, and the greatest gift they can give a child is to give them a great principal." I said, "I'm going to be working for nickels, and I'm going to be living out of a suitcase because I have to fly back and forth." And my mother that day told me it's about time you did something meaningful with your life. I say that in jest, but I also say that to tell you it is the 3 most wonderful years of my life, because in New York City, unbeknownst to a lot of people, because the press sort of preys upon the school system, there are some great heroes. And you can talk all you want about the great work we did in that academy. There are some great people who are doing some fabulous things for kids. In your midst tonight, to those of you who are the friends of Noel, the colleagues of Noel, there are principals sitting here that take subways for 2 hours to get to schools in the Bronx. There's a young man sitting in your midst tonight, his first day of school. Someone threw a desk out of the 2nd floor and almost hit a mother and a small child, where fights took place every time the bell rang. There's another young man who sits here with his assistant principal. His school was ready to be taken over by the state. And today his school just received an A in terms of the total turnaround. Some of those success stories were already here. So in closing, I would say that I'm inspired by the next generation of kids who are here. And most of you look like me. And I think you've got great futures. And I hope tonight a kernel has sort of been planted for you, that there's a wonderful world of opportunity out there for you, that there are people tonight who have a vested interest in your success. Cy Steinberg, the CEO of New York Life, once told me the reason he's so committed to the New York City school system. He said, Bob, you're training the next generation of workers who have to work for me. And so to those kids, this is a great night for you, and for those principals, thank you for what you do every night on the front line to make a difference in the lives of kids. There's one principal here tonight, he was a physician, and he turned in his stethoscope, and he now is leading children. What you've given us today, Noel, and I've known him since 1991, and unlike a lot of the management gurus who have never had to look into the whites of the eye of employees, here's a guy who gets very involved in the granular grassroots work that's going on, who's been down in the inner city, has been in the triage nurses room, who's been in the trucks with my employees, once again has given us food and manna from heaven. To the young lady from the Girls Club who was at our table with another great consultant and book writer, Warner Burke, who's in the back, and his wonderful wife, Bobby. You talk to us about what you do every day is help kids with judgment calls. I hope that you'll read the book. I hope that you'll find ways to name those things that you're doing to help the next generation of leaders. It's a great piece of work, Noel. I'm excited. I'm honored that I can call you my friend. And once again, he's given us a masterpiece. It's another great daily vitamin of good stuff here that we can use every day. I thank you for inviting me to be a part of it, and I thank you for another great piece of work.
Thank you. Let's get some reports on what happened at both ends of the room. You want to share what you learned from your world-class coaches here? Go ahead, stand up.
I asked them what steps do I follow in life, and they told me write a list and look at it every day and see if I went on the right track.
You gonna do it?
Yes.
Great. Wonderful. Good advice. How about what happened over here? Did you get any good advice?
Yes.
All right, come on, stand up and tell us, Matt.
I asked if I don't have the financial money to pursue what I want to do, is there any other alternatives where I could get what I want, which they had gave me some very good advice, and don't let anything hold you back with its money classes or just general people. Don't let nobody limit what you want to do in life.
Wow, thank you. Terrific. You got anybody down at that end?
You made us sound smart.
I asked like which strategies would I need to like if I wanted to own my own business and stuff, and they told me like I need like if I needed any more assistance or if I was slacking in one quarter, like I need to do better than what a college student in that college that I want to go to would do, and like if like instead of waiting for like junior year to start picking college and stuff, like look up what they want now so like I can work better and like get my leadership priorities together, like start leading in clubs now.
Good job. Thank you. All right, let's get one more. Guess who's over here? What did you get out of this? You had all this help here. Look at this group who's helping you. It's pretty intimidating. You know, you guys are doing great. I mean, this is not. If I gave that microphone to any of these adults, they would have, some hesitation. So.
Well, they helped me strategize how to combine basketball and the business field together, how to go about internships, where to look for internships, who to contact, how to get with people, so I could combine basketball and business together. So just in case like basketball don't work, I could like try to get into like sports management or try to go to like MSG, try to get an internship there or any other sports channel or go to any other sports program besides basketball so I could get a heads off start into like business and basketball.
Thank you. All right.